Hello, everybody. Uh, this is this is a presentation which was organized by 8 generations. This is a team I belong to: Laura, Kerstin, my wife Roga, and me. And our aim is to help other people where we can to live a more resilient and future-proof lifestyle. And today's presentation is about permaculture, as we have some international courses planned in India and in Nicaragua. And let's jump right in. My teacher, Joe Palaisha, always started his presentation with this picture from the world, from the WWF. And he said permaculture is like these arches that we need in future, like we can see here, the lifeboat. Industrialized agriculture and our financial system is like a Titanic heading towards the iceberg, and we need these lifeboats, these arches, so we all have safe spaces in future where we can go to learn, find food, and so on. Cool. Let's start. First, a deep bow to my teachers. Everything I present today, I learned from somebody. Of course, and every time, to be honest, when I thought I discovered something new, sooner or later I found out, oh, somebody else knew that before me or at the same time. So a deep bow to my teachers, because I would not sit here without them. And I want to give them my respect, my deepest one. A little bit about me. Who am I? My name is Christoff Schneider. I come from a complete different background. I was an airline pilot in former days, have a degree in hotel management. I did about 30 to 40 jobs already in my life in different professions. So this is the most probably social, the one with the highest social standard, being an airline captain. But after life crisis, I went to Peru, helped to left my job as a pilot, and I helped building a bush hospital and studying bush medicine in Peru. And from there, I got so triggered to learn more about nature, and I joined a permaculture course in 2005, a PDC, Permaculture Design Certificate course with Joe Polaischer. And I followed him afterwards on Rainbow Valley Farm, where I learned over a year in New Zealand, hands-on, how to run a permaculture farm and everything that's necessary to run a permaculture farm. I had the big pleasure to study with David Holmgren, one of the founders of the permaculture concept. On the way, I did a diploma in permaculture. I think that I'm the only one left in Europe teaching in the name of Bill Mollison. I'm the only active teacher of Bill Mollison in Europe at the moment. And yeah, I love to give courses overseas, help at 8 projects where I see that as a knowledge transfer. All the knowledge that we have developed here and other people don't have access to, I love to share this knowledge, and I had the pleasure to teach these courses on all continents yet, and I'm looking forward to go back to Asia to share my knowledge there as well. I had a farm in the mountains, so it's not only the tropical climate that I'm capable to live. This is a mountain right behind me where I live at the moment, where I had a farm for 5 years, which I sold at the end. And there I practiced permaculture, being self-sufficient, living in the forest in harmony with nature. But when you give courses, it's a big problem when you're not at home in summer, so you have to make a decision. Be at home in summer or go and teach and share the knowledge. Yeah, I'm not only having my own farm, I built gardens and did earthworks everywhere in the world on big, all different kind of scales. This was a project in Austria. This is my own garden now, and about 8 years ago, just a meadow, and now we already harvest a lot of food, have a lot of crops yielding. Sometimes my best year was 25,000 euros. This is about $28,000 in 1 year from this small property of 1,000 square meters, which is about a quarter acre. And at the same time producing a lot of food. I give consultancy everywhere it's necessary. This was an agroforest system that we designed in Germany. This was at the moment, the largest project that we ever consulted, which is 1,600 hectares in Paraguay, the Green Paradise, where we did all the water management systems. One of the small squares that you see here is a hectare, which is about 2.5 acres. And yeah, that was huge. It was a floodplain, and I think we managed quite well to get this project well on the way. It's still running, and this is an aerial photograph, which is about 2 years old. So they're having the lakes already dug out. Like this is a 5-hectare lake. It's about 15-acre lake. So that looks small, but it's really huge, this project. Small scale as well. I'm an average skilled craftsman, I would say. But when it comes to landscape, architecture, and gardening, this is a very small project that we built during the Corona crisis where we could not travel. Making out of this wet, moist meadow behind the house a beautiful, ornamental, edible landscape. And I think it's by far, or it's one of the nicest gardens I ever built in my life yet. I worked and was in charge for one of the largest composting units in Austria, in Lower Austria, where we produced thousands of cubic meters of compost. And there you learn a lot that you never learn when you just make compost on small scale. And this knowledge I converted into, and I condensed this knowledge into something where I can go everywhere in the world, show people how they can make the best fertilizer out of the resources that they have. If you have greens at home, you don't even need animals. You have all the fertilizer you need to... Sorry, my screen wants to switch off. And this knowledge I'd like to bring overseas, to Sri Lanka, to Africa, and to other parts of Asia, like here in Sri Lanka, where I spent a lot of time helping people to grow their food, building humus, understanding how to live in harmony with nature, and using permaculture principles and design tools to have better yields and a better crop. I have one more love developed, which is chiropractic, which I started 2 years ago, but that's just on the side. So let's start with the permaculture introduction. That was about me. Now we always start with the history when we talk about project design. Every project, no matter what I design, I always look first into the history. So where does permaculture come from? These two scientists here, Bill Mollison and David Holmgren, joined forces 1974 to develop a tool as an answer or a concept to solve the economical crisis that they already saw now 50 years ago. Bill Mollison died lately, 2016, and David Holmgren is still active and around us. So they two came up with the permaculture concept, which was laid down in the Permaculture 1 book, which I present in a second. So here's David. I had the big pleasure to stay on his farm to learn from him directly, and of course I had the pleasure to meet Bill Mollison. I was a teacher for his institute, or I'm still see myself as a teacher of his institute, presenting exactly the curriculum that he said we have to teach, and everything in addition, that was developed after the designer's manual was written, and this is already a while ago. 1988, this designer's manual here was written, which is like the course syllabus of a permaculture design course. This is the Permaculture Warn, which they both wrote 10 years before the designer's manual was published. And David Holmgren's main book is Permaculture: Principles and Pathways Beyond Sustainability, where he talks what are the principles, what do you have to look after to become sustainable, to live in harmony with nature. Where does this term permaculture come from? In 1978, there was no term for organic agriculture, so they both came up with permaculture, which stands for permanent soil cultivation. And there are three terms in this word permaculture. First, permanent soil cultivation. So looking after the soil, building humus, and at the moment, it's not only conserving soil anymore, it's like we have to work regenerative. Our humus content in Europe is so low that we have over 90% less than 5 kilos of carbon per square meter. And this is the definition, international definition for desert soils, less than 5 kilos of carbon per square meter. So we farm in Europe and definitely in India as well, and in most countries in the world, with desert soil. So we need all these minerals and all the chemicals to produce a crop. And this is a one-way road. It's not definitely not working within the borders of our carrying capacity of our planet. And it's not a closed nutrient loop that we grow our food in. So we have to find a solution to have an agriculture which can sustain itself without input from outside. No energy input from outside. This is permanent soil cultivation, and this is what permaculture looks deeply into. And having permanent soil cultivation only can happen with permanent cultures. A permanent culture has several meanings. One meaning is you work with perennial crops. The most common perennial crop is a fruit or nut tree. And this is the main factor to have a sustainable agriculture and a future-proof agriculture. There's a book written, Restoration Agriculture, from Mark Shepard, a permaculture teacher, where he says there's only a future for us humans here and in agriculture if we go and grow mainly tree crops and feed ourselves mainly from tree crops. A tree is closing all the loops. Forests are closing all the natural loops we are living in. It's closing the water loop, it's closing the nutrient loop, it's closing the gas loop. The climate is completely reliant on trees. If you take the trees away, we have a one-way road again, and all the loops that we live in, our natural loops, are broken. And all work that we do, no matter what kind of work you do, and no matter what hobby you do, whenever, and this is Victor Schauberger, an Austrian genius, who said it 100 years ago, every time you do some work which is interfering with the main loop that we have, the water cycle, then it's senseless work. Change it. So if you do anything out there that's against the water cycle, change it. And these two are the prerequisites for a permanent culture. And their culture has the meaning, the rules and habits which is guiding people's coexistence and behaviors. So we need permanent soil cultivation with permanent cultures for a permanent culture. There's a call for action in permaculture, which happened already 1988, it's written in designer's manual that we have to start looking after our environment now, but the World Scientists Association and Union gave the first notice out in 1992. 1,700 independent scientists, the most living Nobel laureates, signed it. And the second one was published quite lately, a few years ago, where 15,364 scientists from 184 countries in 2017 signed the second notice, where they said if humans continue behaving as they do, our species likely will run into severe problems. And there's a writing that says what permaculture people do nowadays on the planet is probably the most important thing that any group does on this planet on the moment. Permaculture comes with a very, very simple ethical principles. Earth care, people care, fair share. Care for the earth, as I already said, we have to regenerate our natural resources. We have to take what's bound in the atmosphere, the CO2, what's bound in the oceans, what's bound and got eroded. We have to bring it back on the land in form of humus, in form of trees, in form of water. And if we don't manage and increase the population every year, like every 40 years, the last 250 years, we doubled the amount of people. So we started, when Christ was born, we didn't have a lot of people on this planet. In 1900, we had 1 billion people, and now we have 8 billion. So that's it's a doubling rate of around 40 years. And the exponential function just is pushing these numbers every year to an extent that we cannot continue doing that. We all will face these challenges and the changes in our lifetimes. Care of the people, think globally, act locally, look after yourself first, and then the people in your area, and be aware other people in the world don't have so much as we do in the Western world. And that leads to fair share. We should use less here in the Western world, in the industrial countries, and distribute our surplus, what we overconsume, to the people who don't have so much, or as much as we do. There's some myth out there about permaculture. Yeah, like the biggest one, I think permaculture is a form of alternative gardening, which is hilarious, to be honest. Permaculture, people poo in their gardens. Yeah, this is a very simplified way of looking at it. And for practicing permaculture, I need a garden. I want to talk a little bit about this now. Okay, we had this already. What's happening here? Okay, sorry for that. So first, permaculture is a form of alternative gardening. This is just a very, very, very small part of the knowledge and skills you need if you want to practice permaculture and you have a property. Permaculture looks at everything that's necessary to live a comfortable life within the caring capacity of our biosphere. Comfortable life means we have all our needs fulfilled, like we have shelter, we have energy, we have water, we have food, we have knowledge, we have friends, we have a way to interact with each other, financial system, which is commonwealth based, and so on. And the carrying capacity of our biosphere means our biosphere is producing goes in overproduction every year to a certain amount. 1 year, our biosphere is producing more trees, more fish, more oxygen, more soil naturally. And in permaculture, and the ecological footprint calculation looks into, do we manage to, as a species, to live from this overproduction that our biosphere is offering us every year? And at the moment, in July, we have the day where, okay, on this day in July, we already used up the overproduction of our biosphere. You can look it up online in the internet. Yeah, and then we start to cut down more trees that did regrow, and we take more fish out that reproduced out of the oceans, and we erode more soil that was rebuilt in this year. So if we diminish our natural resources so much, what kind of effect does that have on our water, sweet water resources, on our food production, on our climate, maybe? So permaculture, when we look into this knowledge, and what we are looking into very much is a design science. In permaculture, we look at everything that all the components and the domains that we need as humans to make a comfortable living, as I just said. And that makes permaculture the best design science that I came across. I would practice something else if I would have something which is more energy efficient than permaculture design, and which looks more into the loops, the cycles of life of our biosphere, and how to live within these limits of our biosphere. These domains, I call them pillars, and I developed my own ones, not David Holmgren ones, are knowledge, infrastructure, energy, water, food, and community. Means in all these fields, you have to gain a certain amount of knowledge to become independent, self-sufficient, and to design a property or a community or a company which works and behaves in a way that the cycles of life that we live in on this planet are not broken or interfered too much. So our students do, of course, in the courses projects, group works, and here you see a nice picture, two pictures. One was drawn by women, same topic, and one was drawn only by men. What do you think, which is the female picture and which one is the man's picture? Yep, I think everybody will see that right away. The more creative one to the left, this is the female one, and the right one, the structured one, is the male's one. And we need both. We need both energies out there to solve the problems of our environment and our social problems, and maybe our personal ones as well. Good. Let's start looking a little bit into what these pillars mean and what we cover in a course. This is a small video from New Zealand. I had the pleasure to learn in New Zealand and to bring the knowledge on how to use an Austrian scythe to New Zealand, how to work with it, how to maintain it. And this is a course that we held, so people don't need an fuel-driven weed eater, and they can use a very efficient tool, a scythe, to cut grass, grains, weeds, and so on. So the knowledge that permaculture shares is very much based on the knowledge of indigenous people, traditional future-proof agricultural systems. This was very much what it was about in the permaculture one. But in the last 50 years, so much knowledge went in, and development went into permaculture, that permaculture is very much used as well in community building systems, in local exchange and trade systems, in how to make companies more ecological sound, how to start an aid project, and so on. So every part of life that you can think of, you can use these tools and the knowledge of permaculture. And for everything, you need certain practical skills. I mean, you sit in front of the computer, a practical skill, not so much working for nature. Anyhow, we are using it now to promote permaculture. Good news. Next thing, ecological building and infrastructure. How to build. This is a home in New Zealand. I think I visited it. I had the pleasure to visit it at the Earth Buildings Association event of New Zealand. And I've seen this picture so often in all different magazines worldwide. And this is a handmade built house by people, not by a company. So the owners built the house themselves with soil and resources from the land. And this is a very good example, role model of how to work with nature and not against nature. Taking local materials, what I have, not toxifying the environment to build my home and having the knowledge to do that. If I know how to build my home, I can maintain it. I can make a business out of it. So having this knowledge is very worthwhile. And there's so many workshops out there where you can learn how to build your home already. Energy supply, next. Yeah, control over my energy supply and the ability to generate and store energy. This is a rocket stove developed from permaculture people, which uses very, very little firewood. I built this one or developed this one for temperate climate where we produce charcoal at the same time for terra preta, and you see how energy efficient the whole thing is. But energy consumption and energy security is a big, big topic at the moment. How to make my home energy safe. This is very difficult. I mean, the only thing that you really have control over is a wooden stove. Everything else, did everybody, any one of you already try to build a light bulb? If you say photovoltaic would be a sustainable source of energy. If you don't know how to build a light bulb, do you know anybody who knows how to build a light bulb? If not, you lose your last light bulb and finished, over. You don't have any light, even if your photovoltaic on the roof or wherever works excellently. So we have to secure our energy supplies locally with timber, with wood, as much as we can anywhere in the world. And in the permaculture course, we talk very deeply about forests and energy security and blackout prevention and so on. Yeah, water management. I did a presentation last year about keyline water management, where we had a lot of people from India joining. That was good fun. And I think it's one of the biggest problems that we face at the moment in the world. We have here, when I look outside, a drought here even in Austria, 36, 37 degrees every day at the moment. And the soil is dried. Like when I go into the fields, it's like a meter down dry. The corn crop is all died off because we don't irrigate corn here. So we have a very bad yield in the fields out there in my area here. And I know there's a big drought in Europe happening. So if we don't learn how to manage our water better and build the humus at the same time and guide the water safe to the landscape and have good drinking water and how to clean drinking water, we will face big problems in future. And this is this is a big topic in permaculture, in the permaculture course. Same as food supply. You just think how much control you have over your food supply, and at the same time how much food is produced in the area where you are, and what happens if and how good you are connected with people who produce food in your area. If you don't have a strong network where people save seeds, share seeds, produce food, share and trade food, you better look into alternatives. I mean, we just had a crisis, a corona crisis. This was before the Corona crisis. Um, this video was made in Sri Lanka, where I went with 5 students to a farm where we exchanged our knowledge, and the students learned to work with nature, producing rice. We produced about 5 different varieties of very old rice species. Yeah, it was a big challenge protecting the rice from the elephants, from the wild boar, sleeping in the fields. Back to the roots. Yeah, and common good economy. Um, how to make my town, my community future proof. How to establish an alternative financial system, local exchange and trade systems, how to build community gardens, what kind of rules are necessary. This is a big topic, half a day in a permaculture course. Highly recommended. So here they are, everything that we just talked about on one slide. Knowledge, ecological building, energy supply, water management, and food supply. Common good economy, the pillars of the permaculture school. How to learn permaculture? Yeah, where can I get all this knowledge, or what's the best way to start? I want to give you several ways. The most people I know who got stuck on the permaculture trail did a PDC, a permaculture design certificate course. From my point of view, it's the fast track way to learn permaculture. It's very well structured. It's proven over 50 years that it works. When I look at the people coming out of these courses afterwards, and of course we plan a PDC in November in Goa, or in February in Nicaragua. And if you want to join, it would be our pleasure to share what we have to share. In a permaculture design course, we cover all these 14 chapters and topics of the permaculture designer's manual, but this book was written 50 years ago. So, and everything that was developed afterwards, the book has about 600 pages, and everything that you have to add. So it's a very intense course. Ask my students. We start in the morning early, very often with a yoga practice and meditation, and then we work late into the evening. It's not really a recreational holiday. So the topics are the principles of permaculture, design methods, natural pattern language, and how I use natural patterns in design. We talk about climate factors, water, influence of trees, soil science, earthworks, permaculture in all climate zones, aquaculture, very important topic, and 8 generations planning for the future. Why is a permaculture course recommended of me? I mean, you can learn permaculture from books, from videos. Very good, very fine. There's a lot of information out there. What's the difference from being an autodidact, learning by myself from books, compared to going to a course? When you come to a course, you receive a structured, proven, and further developed approach, which means in these around 40 PDCs that I've taught the last 15 years, I condense the knowledge which is really important for the students in a way that they can digest it better. And of course, when you see the mistakes that people do after a course and what problems they face, you focus more on the things that you have not covered. So the course got better and better and better and better, my point of view. And that makes it fast track. Yeah, you know where to start, and you know what to start with. Bill Mollison once said, We try to make a lot of mistakes so we know what works and what does not work. You will make a lot of mistakes at the beginning. That's natural. And coming to a course, you can already learn from my mistakes, not doing them. Yeah. You get an immediate feedback um, when you run into problems when you're in a course at your design project that you have to do in the group exercises, maybe your personal project that you have at home. You immediately can address anything to me, and you get very fast feedback. I had people coming to my course regularly. They bought a property, then they come to a course to design it, and afterwards they said we should have done the course before buying a property, so we would have known all the parameters which make life easier when you plan to live a sustainable life from your farm, garden, or project. So I even had people selling their property and buying another one. So before you plan your own project or you have your own project, come to a course and you will know what to look for and you will recognize your property much easier compared to having no idea what kind of features a property should have uh, when thinking of buying one. Of course, working in a group, being in a group gives you better motivation, and it's always a funny group experience. People say I'm quite entertaining, so 2 weeks are quite long, but normally people don't get bored. I have a lot of stories to draw from funny ones and not so funny ones for me, and a lot of pictures and selected videos because a picture says more than 100 words. This is the reason why I recommend a permaculture course. And when I look at the really good people in permaculture, there are about 5 people in Europe teaching and sharing for the Permaculture Research Institute in Australia. I'm one of them, and they all did a PDC. Without PDC, nobody goes on this track normally. A lot of people are on this track without a PDC, to be honest, and they do amazing work, but normally more for themselves. Living a sustainable lifestyle. But very often you hear them even mentioning and saying the word permaculture. How to fit the whole things together when you know the big picture now, the topics that we just talked about. There are checklists. I used to be a pilot, love checklists, and even the designers manual, there are checklists. So for every topic, you get a checklist. So if you plan a project or whatever, yeah, for example, here we have water storage, you get a checklist for everything that you have to think of when you think about water management, everything that you think about climatic factors, everything about designing a property from 1 square meter to 50 hectares and more. So you get checklists that you can follow, so you always make sure that you did not forget everything. You get a lot of information about several topics more in detail, like what is the main important factor when buying agricultural land? Look that you have 500 millimeters of rainfall, 19.7 inches, and so on. So how to store the water? This is out of the keyline presentation, and this is just water, a little bit of what we share, so life becomes easier for you. And of course, practical design skills. So you will draw, you will bring everything off paper, you will become a designer already coming to a course. And not only property design, we design relationships in a course, we design aid projects, we design companies. That's all done in a permaculture design course of the Permaculture School. Bill Mollison, received the Right Livelihood Award, the Alternative Nobel Prize for Permaculture. So it is a science. It's something that's recognized in the world. And thousands of students that we 100,000 of students worldwide in permaculture who did a permaculture course. We had several hundreds of students who joined our courses, and all this experience of the struggles, everything that we learned from these courses, of course, is added to our future courses. So, last thing before we go to the questions, informations. If you're interested, I would be happy to see you in one of our courses. The next course to happen is at Kamaketen Eco Village in South Goa. Go to Q Spaces on Instagram, or drop me an email. Then I pass your information, your interest on to Meghna, who is organizing the course in Goa. This is a PDC, 14 days, I think 13 days, sorry. And very intense. We taught a course already, Kamaketna. I'm looking forward to come back, and I hope to see you there. If you're interested, would be lovely. There's a very nice beach around Ball in the area, so there will be plenty of time as well to take a dip in the ocean. We have advanced courses at Saraya Cafe in North Goa. The program is not out yet exactly from Saraya. Of course, what we share in these workshops is of course discussed. We will have composting and humus building. We have a water management, agroforestry course. We have advanced permaculture design methodology. So it will be a very, very fun time. I'd love to be at Saraya, and we already built a garden there some years ago before the Corona crisis, and they're very, very good permaculture people. Office at permacultureschool.org or saraya.in. Drop me a note and I keep you informed. Students of our courses received already prizes for their work, like Lukas Uhr. He won the Energy Globe Award. And this is the last thing I want to share with you. I hope it works. This is a testimonial from the people of our last courses. Very different people, not only farmers.
Hi, my name is Aisha from
Hi everyone,
I'm Aina. I'm a lawyer from Canada. Hello, I'm Pratik from I'm a product designer and a UI UX designer. I am Rachel. I'm from Coimbatore. I'm an organic farmer. I'm here at Kamaketna doing my permaculture design course. It's been such a great eye-opening course for me. My dream project for my mother and my design project, which is an edible fruit yard. It's a replicable model for all those to adopt. It is how to grow and how to cook it, and about life. Quite an experience. Life-changing experience. I'm a chef and I do the permaculture course for well-being to grow and make the life better on Earth. A lot of home gardening, I've been doing composting, but then my knowledge was limited and I wanted a nice structured knowledge from a very experienced guy. All about architecture, sustainable design, sustainable living. It's been a really beautiful last 2 weeks. Let's get started.
Yeah, sorry for the bad quality.